Can you guys hear us? Sounds like it.
Hello, hello, hello.
Okay, we'll probably have a few more people coming in, but we do kind of have a lot of content, so we wanted to go ahead and get started. So we'll just kick off. Welcome to Build. I hope you've been having a great day today. I know the keynote was fantastic. It was super exciting for me to see us sharing the roadmap and reconnecting in that way. I really enjoyed that. I just want to start by introducing myself. My name's Thomas Fennell. I'm a program manager in the Windows team on the notifications platform, so specifically in the developer platform for notifications. And I'm extremely excited to have with me today Jorge Rastrom.
Hi.
He is a senior developer on our team, and this really means a lot to me to have Jorge here because we're now bringing our developers to the show, to Build, so that they can connect very, very closely with the community. And we think that's extremely, extremely important. Jorge built a large part of what you're going to see today, along with some other amazing people. And so having him here so that he can engage with you guys after this, in the Ask the Experts one-on-one, it's really important to our team, the developer platform, to make sure that we know exactly what you guys want and listen to your feedback and incorporate that into the product going forward. So it's great to have Jorge here. I'm excited to be here. We have got some really cool stuff to show you guys about notifications today. Hopefully some surprises. Maybe if you saw Andrew's session, he didn't ruin everything that I talk about today, but we'll see. But before we go too far, you might have heard that there's been kind of a transformation going on at Microsoft. We have done a lot to unify our internal teams. We're really serious about One Microsoft, and this project, specifically converging the notification platforms between Windows and Windows Phone, is a fantastic example of what it really means to be One Microsoft. So many people contributed to this project. And without this mentality, without bringing back our core beliefs that working together is the way to do things right, working across teams, working with the community to really listen to what people want, this would have never been possible. These people are who made what you're going to see today actually possible. I want to thank these people and all of you for helping us build a great platform, and I want to keep doing it going forward in the future. So, without further ado, let's get started. So you're here to learn about notifications, but why use notifications? What is it about notifications that's important? Why should you care about this session? Well, to start with, notifications is really the best way to do multitasking on the phone. It's one of the best ways to do multitasking. Notifications let you interact with your customer even when your app can't be around to do that. You know your app can't always be in the foreground. There's not time for your app to always be there in front of the user's face. So whenever the app's not in the foreground, you need a way to connect with them. Sometimes that's a toast, the banner that pops at the top of the screen. Maybe it's a live tile because you want to show them something enticing, something interesting to get them in the app. Notifications are really the way that you make sure you reach out to your customer and get them engaged with the app. And that's the next thing I want to talk about, engagement. Getting people engaged with your app, let's face it, that's really how you make money for most of you. That's what you're interested in. Getting them into the app so that they can help you make money and that they can enjoy the app experience. So bringing them into the app is a core part of what notifications is about, getting them fully engaged with what your app can do. On top of that, though, sometimes it's more than just engagement. Sometimes it's about building a relationship. For example, if you're a fitness app and you want the customer to really feel good about themselves and about what they've been doing, having notifications show to that user that says, hey, you did a great job, you did 1,000 steps today, another 100 steps and you would have met your goal, or do another 100 steps right now so that you can get to your goal today, that kind of ongoing relationship, that's more than just engagement. You're building up trust with the user so that they can feel like your app is an integral part of their life and of their lifestyle and what they want to do. On top of that, differentiation is something you can do with notifications as well. Differentiating your app is hard, but it's something that you can do, and it's something you can do a great job with something like live tiles. We have seen some just absolutely beautiful live tiles get created for Windows Phone. The creativity of the community always absolutely blows me away. So using notifications to differentiate your app, to show an experience that no one was expecting, is critical to making sure that you keep all these things going on with your customer. So that's why we should use it. I want to talk a little bit about what people told us after Windows Phone 8. So after we shipped Windows Phone 8, we heard, well, what we really want is one platform, Microsoft. You've got MPN, you've got WNS, I'll get into that in a minute. Why don't you just have one platform? You're one company. Could you please act like one? So we're going to talk a little bit about the one platform today. Actually, that's the majority of what we're going to talk about. But you also said, look, if you're going to stay with MPN, I understand maybe for a little while I might put up with that, but if you're going to stay with MPN, you've got to make it better. It has to become much, much more reliable. Do more for me in other regions outside the United States. You said, notifications are great, but I want more flexibility. People saw what was happening with Windows and with the just absolute wonderful amount of tile templates, for example, that Windows gave you. And they said, Windows tiles are flexible. There's a lot of layouts. Can I please have this on Windows Phone? And you said, give us a notification center. I kind of feel like most of you in this room have heard that story or seen that article. Windows Phone needs a notification center. And you said, the tools are great, but I would like more. Can you do more for me in tooling to make my life easier? So as we go through this today, we'll address all of this stuff, and hopefully you guys will leave satisfied and happy with what we've done and looking forward to the future. So what is this converged platform? What does it mean to be fully converged with Windows? Well, Windows Phone 8 used Microsoft push notifications. We call that MPN. That's our affectionate term. MPN was where we left off in Windows Phone 8. In Windows 8 and Windows 8.1, we used Windows Notification Service. So that was WNS. So you can see clearly there's two split platforms here. Well, the good news is Windows Phone 8.1 uses Windows Notification Services. Fully, completely converged on WNS, no exceptions whatsoever. Okay, that's great, but a lot of you in this room may be Windows Phone developers already. So what if you already use MPN? What does this mean to you? What happens because we converge the platform? Don't worry, we're there for you. Just for taxonomy, let's call these APIs from Windows Phone 8 the .NET APIs, or the MPN APIs. This was what you used to use, things like shell tile schedule, HTTP notification channel, the things that are in the Microsoft.phone.notifications namespace and Microsoft.phone.shell namespace. All these things are still there. In Windows Phone 8.1, we didn't remove any of this. It's not even marked to be deprecated. It's still there for you exactly like it used to be, and we want you to feel comfortable that it works exactly like it used to work. Now, truth be told, there's actually some pretty serious magic happening under the covers. In Windows Phone 8.1, we ripped the platform out completely. The platform that used to support MPN and the .NET APIs no longer exists in any way. We've put the WNS platform in there instead. That means both local and push. But in truth, we left the .NET APIs there. We replumbed them all to work with WNS. So we like to call it a .NET frosting on top of WNS. Because we did that, we knew that whenever customers were upgrading from Windows Phone 8 to Windows Phone 8.1, they wouldn't want to lose notifications during that upgrade process. Because since we ripped the platform out, once we move customers to Windows Phone 8.1, they want to keep getting their notifications, but the platform doesn't exist anymore. So during the OS upgrade process, we actually do some magic to take the URIs, the endpoints that your app used to have, we put them up in the cloud, and we make sure that when the customer comes back from the upgrade process, we reroute all of those to the WNS platform so that notifications just keep working seamlessly. We did a bunch of testing on this because we didn't want people who upgraded to Windows Phone 8.1 to have to relaunch their apps in order to keep getting notifications. We didn't think that was the right thing to do for the customer because you're trying to engage with that customer. And if your app can't get a notification, then they might blame that on you, and we don't want that. So we wanted to make sure that your app just kept working after OS upgrades. On top of that, to be able to take the notifications that used to go to what we call MPN and for push, and now go to WNS, we built something called the shim. And this is something that, as we came out to build and we had internal events, a lot of people wanted some insight into this. What is this shim that you built to make this transition possible? And so that's kind of what I want to talk about next, is the architecture of the shim and how we keep notifications working for you even though we've ripped the platform out. So I'm going to show you 4 basic components, and we're going to start with the phone. So that's a Windows Phone 8.1 device, and you can kind of see there we got several layers. You've got your app, and remember, this is still your Windows Phone 8.0 app. You haven't touched it. It's just running on Windows Phone 8.1. And you can see the .NET APIs there, but you can also see the WinRT APIs. They're side by side. We'll get to the WinRT stuff, which is what we call the WNS stuff, in a little bit. But for you guys, if you've already built an MPN app, it's the .NET APIs. And we've got the notification client platform underneath. So those are all the components on the phone. The server that's actually responsible for sending push notifications, the one that you send notifications to, is the WNS server. That's the new service and server that we've moved to altogether. That's what the device connects to now. You've also got your cloud service. When you're sending a push notification, what you're really doing is sending a push from that cloud. And then you've got this thing we created called the MPN shim. And I'll talk about that a little more as we go through the flow. So in step 1, your app wakes up and it asks for what we call a URI or a channel. This is really like a URI that you post to. So you're asking the platform for that, and we connect to WNS in step 2. And when we connect to WNS, this is the only persistent connection we make. We don't have 2 connections that we split between WNS and MPN, because that would be terrible for battery life. We wanted one persistent connection. WNS actually turns around and creates a channel using a domain and a structure, things that look almost exactly like how you used to get a URI from MPN. So we've kind of mimicked MPN in as many ways as we can. Returns that to your app in step 4, And in step 5, you send it up to your cloud service because now you want to contact the device. You need to say, hey, this user got this URI. You associate it maybe with a unique device ID. And then when you're ready to send a notification, you post to that URI in step 6. And then what really happens is you're posting to the shim now. You're not posting to MPN. As a matter of fact, MPN is very deliberately not in this picture because the shim is not built on top of MPN. It's its own thing. And it's very, very lightweight. It's really actually more like a DNS forwarder than anything else. It just says, this notification was really meant for WNS. Let me just pass it on. And that's what it does in the next step. And then finally, WNS sends it down to the phone. What we found with this architecture is that even though it looks like an extra hop, it's faster than MPN. Doing this today, end-to-end, consistently, is much faster than MPN. So by your app just running on Windows Phone 8.1, you're going to get a performance benefit, an extreme performance benefit. You don't have to do anything, and you will get these benefits just because your app is running on Windows Phone 8.1. And if you move to WNS, things get even better. The team that built WNS built Windows Live Messenger. Well, you know, it was MSN Messenger at one time as well. But they built that from the ground up, and they've been doing services for a really long time. They understand scale. They understand speed. They understand flexibility in the platform. They did an amazing job making WNS a really, really solid platform for Windows and now for Windows Phone. So you're an existing MPN developer, and you're the guy who writes the client code. You don't have to change anything. You don't need to rewrite. You don't need to do anything. The app will just work. Like we said, all the APIs are there. Nothing's deprecated. But there are some behavioral improvements that if you are an MPN client developer, you'll probably be pretty happy about. For example, you used to have to call things like bind to shell tile and bind to shell toast to signify to us that you wanted to send tile or toast notifications down to a Windows Phone device. You can still call those, but they will always succeed. There's no way for those calls to ever fail. Your app is always allowed to send notifications going forward. You don't have to worry about ever call, like, you don't have to change your app. If it calls these using the existing MSDN patterns, that's perfect, because it will just work. Of course, that being said, since they always work, then if you ever ask, is shell tile bound or is shell toast bound to check these values, they will also always be true. Bind to shell tile used to have this behavior where when you wanted to send a push to a tile and that tile had a remote image, it was meant to go grab an image from the cloud, you had to give us a list of the URIs in the cloud that you wanted to allow images to come down from. And we got a lot of feedback from developers saying, you know how many times I have forgotten to put the URI on that list and shipped an app update, and it's really annoying to have to do this. Why do I have to do this? You don't have to do it anymore. I mean, you can still do it, but you don't have to. You can get an image from anywhere in the cloud. You don't have to worry about this URI list anymore. It'll just work. And then finally, one pattern that you should always do in your app, again, it's the standard sample on MSDN, is you always call find when your app launches to see if you've already got a URI. Once your app runs on Windows Phone 8.1, that'll always return null, and you'll go into your loop where you check or actually ask for a new channel. But again, we did a ton of compat testing. We went through a lot of apps, and I mean thousands and thousands and thousands of apps, and they work great with these new patterns because all these apps seem to use the canonical pattern that was on MSDN, and for the most part, we think that people writing these kind of apps are going to be happy about these because they just make life a lot simpler when you're an MPN developer. Okay, but what if you're the person who writes the server code? So again, you don't have to change anything, no need to rewrite. There are some things you should keep in mind, things we learned as we were trying to roll this new technology out to you. For example, we learned that an awful lot of apps actually do something called domain whitelisting. The way that the URI format looks like is something like star.notify.live.net and then a whole bunch of goo at the end because it's some kind of token. You don't, if you domain whitelist, then we found out that whenever we tried to change this, because we were rolling out the shim and we thought the URI should be new and different, we broke a lot of apps. We realized that a lot of people actually do this. So we did a lot of work to make sure that we do not change the way the domain looks. But if you domain whitelist, as a matter of fact, if you're a notifications developer and you know what I mean by domain whitelisting, can you raise your hand for me right now? Good. So there is somebody in the room. Oh, sorry. Thank you. So I would love to talk to you after the session just to learn more about why you do this. We found sometimes it's because you're an enterprise app, but we would love to just learn more about domain whitelisting. On top of that, we found that a lot of apps actually use URI length restrictions. We never expected to see this. When we first started doing the project, we were returning URIs that were much longer, like think 500, 600 characters. And we found that a lot of apps couldn't support that. Either the app couldn't support the link to the URI, or once it got up to the cloud service didn't support it. And we were very surprised by this. So we worked to get the URIs down. Again, we didn't want to break any existing apps. But if you use URI length restrictions, that's another thing I'd love to talk to you about after the session. It would be really great to learn more about why you did that, if it was just defaults in some of the code you were using. Just love to learn more about why you did that. So that being said, we fixed those problems. We don't see anybody having issues because of it now, and everything should be good. So that's if you're an existing developer, but what if you're excited to move to the new platform? And you should be, because you get a lot of great benefits with it. Let's talk about what you get with WNS if you move your code to use the new notification platform in a Phone 8.1 application. So again, we call these the WinRT APIs instead of the .NET APIs because they're the newer API set. All the namespaces that you use if you're a Windows developer of notifications are here on Windows Phone. No exceptions. Everything is completely and fully converged. Windows.UI.notifications and Windows.UI.startScreen for doing things with primary tiles and secondary tiles and toasts, and Windows.networking.push notifications if you want to do push, you want to do remote notifications. It all works. I know I'm saying it a lot. We might have said things like this in the past, but we're dead serious this time. All the code works. Go grab any of the code that's on MSDN, even from the old samples of Windows notifications and apps that use Windows notification service. Put that in your phone app using WNS. The code will work. It'll run exactly like you expect it to, because that's what you told us you wanted. While we were doing this, we did learn some great stuff from Windows Phone 8 as we did WNS in Windows Phone 8. Everybody said same API, so we clearly did that. But people had also been telling us for a long time, very politely, that they would like to wake up some code as the result of a push notification. And Windows actually gave you a way to do this by having push to wake a task or raw to wake a task. That's coming to Windows Phone as well. You can send a push notification, you can wake up some code, and you can do what you need to do with it. Maybe you need to update a database before you pop a toast to make apps start up faster if you're a chat app. Scenarios like that get much, much easier when you use move to WNS. We also, thank you. We also did a ton of work to do reliability improvements. And people spent a ton of, if you were in Andrew's session, you heard the story he might have told about Saral on my team, who literally drove his wife crazy by driving around behind the connector bus that has Wi-Fi and probably, is probably breaking some traffic laws, and testing how reliable notifications are as you kind of connect to these networks that are kind of transient all around the world. We did a lot more than that, too. We did a lot of international testing to make sure that globally we had notifications covered from reliability. And we did things like changing how our offline queue works as well. So whenever you're disconnected for, let's say, less than 30 minutes, your phone goes into a tunnel, for whatever reason you just don't have any network connectivity, that offline queue depth for up to 30 minutes is basically infinite. So if you get 100 messages from your friend in that time on WhatsApp, they all persist. They all stay in the server, and whenever you reconnect to the server within that 30-minute period, they'll come down. And we'll do smart stuff to make sure they don't all pop. I'll tell you about that in a little bit. On top of that, if you're disconnected for more than 30 minutes, we made sure that we could still queue things for you for weeks. We have a depth of 5 toast notifications, 1 raw notification, only 1 raw because typically raw is just used for a shoulder tap anyway, and then 5 tile notifications as well. And the raw and the tile policies match exactly what Windows had today, and new for Windows Phone is the 5 toast notifications that we'll store. So even if you've been gone and disconnected for a week, when you come back, you will get those important messages from the people you care about because we stored them up on the server. And that's a big improvement from what we had in NPN. And then finally, if you're an NPN developer, no more certificates to manage when you move to WNS. You don't have to do certificates at all if you want to do secure notifications. WNS uses OAuth. It's much easier, and it's a great process. We'll talk a little bit about that actually coming up in Jorge's demo. So if you're an NPN developer, there are also some key differences you should be aware of. Not major ones, but things that make WNS a little bit different from NPN. With WNS, the pattern is you always request a new URI when your app starts up. It doesn't mean you go looking for one, and if you don't find it, then you request one. The pattern on MSDN for WNS is just always say, give me a new URI, give me a new URI, every time your app wakes up. And you should use the same pattern on Windows Phone. You do need to renew your URI periodically, because if you're a WNS developer, you've switched to the WNS API, those URIs expire after 30 days. But the good news is you can get a new URI by using a maintenance trigger. So you can actually wake up some code every 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, whatever you want to do, and renew that URI. You didn't used to be able to get to any of the notifications APIs in Windows Phone from NPN in the background. So with WNS, you can do that. You can renew your URI. You can send it up to your server to make sure it stays fresh. You have the ability to use a maintenance trigger. OAuth does require you to have an app identity in the store. That means that before you can send notifications over the real network for the first time, you need to preload an app into the store. You don't have to really submit it, but you have to get some credentials to be able to do this. But the good news is, if you've already got a Windows app that uses WNS, for testing, you can actually just use the same app identity. As a matter of fact, that's an intended scenario, is that you can actually share an app identity now between Windows and Windows Phone, and you'll be able to still use the same SID, the same secret, and send notifications to that device, and Jorge's going to show that that really does work coming up. And then finally, addressing some of the tooling requirements. the notifications are not the easiest thing to develop for if you're not a server code person. If you're not the kind of person who writes a lot of server code, but you still want to test the platform as if it really is getting a push notification, that can be kind of hard to do. We've heard that testing can be cumbersome, and like I said before, it also requires store registration, so if you haven't signed up for a developer account yet, that's a barrier that we wanted to remove. And again, it requires server expertise. We think great tools should be in our DNA at Microsoft, so we've created something called the Notification Simulation Engine that's shipping in the Windows Phone tools that we've released today. The Notification Simulation Engine lets you send a notification exactly like it's coming from the server. You enable the simulation engine, relaunch your app, and you'll be able to send notifications without ever touching server code. So when you're sitting somewhere and you need to be the guy who's testing the code, but not the guy who writes the server code, you want to test the client code, you can do this. And again, coming up right now, Jorge is going to show you exactly how this works. So with that, over to you, my friend.
Thank you. OK, so let's get to the code, because I guess that's what you people want to see here. So all the things that Thomas talked through, I'm going to go through step by step and show you the difference of how you build up your app, and eventually how you send a notification to an app, and eventually how you use the notification simulator. So first of all, I built my sample based on the Universal project, because in the push scenario, it really makes sense if you're targeting both the Windows 8.1 platform and the phone platform to use the same app identity, which allows you to develop your backend code in a consistent way, and you can create classes that handles the specific application that you're targeting. And the only thing that you have to take care of for addressing the device and the application you're targeting is the URI that you will get. So once I've selected Universal project, there are some steps for me to link these two applications that I have to take in the developer portal. So I started my project by adding the Windows Phone application to the Windows Phone developer portal. And I only had to go through the first step of registering the application, and that generated a secret for me and the SID that I will then use for the OAuth exchange. Then I went into the Windows developer portal and created an application, and during the step of the creation, I linked that application to my Windows Phone app. Now these two are connected to each other, they have the same identity. I'm not going to show you the steps here because it takes a while and for the sake of time. But what you do here is then, when you get to your developer tools, to actually get that information down to your project, is that you can use the built-in functionality in the developer tools. So I'm going to go to the store here. I'm going to select association to an app. I have my credentials already cached here. In this case, you would insert your developer portal credentials. And I have my build Windows sample here. So this is the app identity of the app that both exists in the Windows portal and in the Windows Phone portal. I've already selected this information, so I'm not going to go through with this. But what happens is that the app identity gets added to my application manifest, and now when you launch the application and you register into the notifications platform, that would be the identity that's used for the application.
So now it's the same identity across both.
Yeah.
You don't even have to think about the identities.
Yeah. OK, so the other advantage when you're making a universal project is you can share libraries between this. And the push APIs and most of the background task functionality is actually exactly the same between Windows Phone and Windows, which means that I can implement these portable class libraries in this project. Like you can see here is the push library here and the raw push background task activation, which will be my next demo that I'm going to show you. So this is pretty much all the code that I share between these two applications. So pay attention to when I'm debugging the application. You will see that I will, when I show this demo on phone, it's the same code that I'm going to debug break into. OK, so let's deploy this application into my emulator here. And of course, I'm running against the 512 emulator, because if my app works there, it's going to work excellent on all.
You all heard in the keynote that the 520 is the best-selling phone in its class in the world. Okay. So that's a 512 meg device. It's really good to test your apps on the 512 meg emulator. OK, so this is my shared push library here. Pay attention to the code here, because I will get here later on as well. I'm creating a push notification channel through the async pattern. I'm attaching my delegate where I receive the push notifications for then later fanning out to the different types of push notifications. And then I wait for the channel to come down. OK, so I get the channel, and I'm printing it out to the debug output. So I'm going to go to a site that we have here. So this site is a very useful utility site for us to push all kind of push notifications. As you see, I already have
pre-provision the SID and the client secret. As you will see in my demo, I will never change the package SID and the client secret when I'm switching between the phone app and the Windows app. The only thing that I will be changing is the channel URI. And I think we will be posting the code for this sample.
Yeah, so this server that Jorge is using is kind of an add-on to something we used to do with NPN. And we're going to put this up on MSDN for you guys about a week after build, and you'll be able to use this code to just test your own things out using WNS.
OK. So what my app does, it's pretty much just sending a raw notification. Of course, I have to hit F5 here as well. So this is a utility app, and what you should be focusing on right now is the incoming raw box here. OK, so let's send the push. And as you saw,
what is that?
what is that in the middle of my demo popping up?
That's not what you just sent.
No, that's not what I just sent.
What is that?
I don't know. What? OK.
Who is this? Is this Sean stealing my friggin' thunder from next door?
Yeah, I think so.
He is basically showing you guys exactly what we were about to show you. God, let me friggin' talk to him for a second. What the?
Yes. Always when I want to demo something.
All right. Well, OK. Maybe can we humor him and just can you guys clap really loud and let him know that it works? OK. Well, anyway, Sean, see you later, and thanks a lot. OK. That's enough of that. I'm sorry, Jorge. I cannot apologize enough for Sean.
Yeah,
please continue.
I'll catch up with him later. OK, anyway, so that didn't throw me off at all. OK, so as you saw, the Hello Phone raw, and I also have a debug break after I've sent this into the phone. So this is the payload. The only thing that I did is that I grabbed the payload from the raw notification here, and I put it directly into the text property of this text field. And that's pretty much it. So that's a simple scenario, or the basic scenario for raw notification.
OK, well, I guess now we should show them the same thing that Sean just stole our thunder
Yeah,
for, only
so-
working on phone, probably.
So I guess that he grabbed my code
fine.
and deployed it as a separate app. Yeah. In any way, OK, so I'm going to change the project here, and hopefully it's not sabotaging that as well. So let's start a project here. This is a Windows project here, Windows 8.1, and I'm running and deploying to this Windows machine. So as you see, the UI looks a little bit different because I want to show you that it's a different app.
I have
So-
to admit, you're a master of UI, Jorge.
Yeah,
I've
I'm
never seen
really
a
good
prettier
at UI.
application in my
That's what they
entire
call
life.
me, the plumber, so I'm plumbing stuff. OK, so initialize obviously does what it says, initialize. So pay attention to the code here. This is actually the same code. This is my portable class library that's doing the same thing on the Windows machine here at all, and I'm getting a new URI. So I'm going to grab this URI. No, there's no magic here at all. I'm getting rid of this thing here, and I'm putting the new URI, keeping same secret. And hello, Win 8.1 raw. And we hit F5 here as well, so we can receive it. OK. Let's go back here. And let's send it. Send push. And we go back to our app. Oh, Win 8 raw. Same code running, same, everything same. And that's it. OK, so I'm going to move now to show you how you activate this background task. And I'm going to make it even harder for me. So I'm going to show you how to activate a background task using the notification simulator. Because the notification simulator is really, really useful in the cases of when you're sitting on an airplane, for example, and you don't have any connectivity, or the Wi-Fi is spotty, like the hotel where we're staying right now, which worst Wi-Fi ever. OK, so let me close this window here. OK, so I go to the emulator here, and you see this little thing here on the side, and I should probably drag it in there. So we have this little part here, which is the notification simulator, the same UI that Thomas showed you. So I'm going to enable the notification simulator here, and I'm going to run the application.
Uninstall.
And I'm going to redeploy there. OK, deployment succeeded. I'm doing that because we're changing the. So if you look at the channel URI that we got here, it's going to look a little bit different here. Look at that. That looks a little bit different here. So I'm going to copy this one in the same way that I did before. I'm going to hit F5 here. And I'm going to go to the site here.
No, you don't have to go to the website, Jorge, because you've got the simulator, so you don't have to use server
Okay,
code.
so first he interrupted me and you start interrupting. You want to take over the whole demo
I can
here?
drive if you want me to.
It's fine. Okay, fine. Okay, so yeah, he's right, of course. This URI is really not necessary right now. It's just for all the code to be able to execute in the correct fashion. So, okay, so if I refresh here. Let's do this.
Yeah, uninstall it and give it a shot.
Yeah, let's redeploy the application.
So what happens under the covers is, whenever you enable the simulation engine, we're actually telling the notification service that we pointed it basically to a different push server. It doesn't know that the different push server is actually on the phone. So the simulation engine itself is replicating WNS only locally on the device. So it's actually something that's running on the phone whenever you enable it. There we go.
Simsalabim. Okay, so we got the correct device. This is the device identity and the URI. It really doesn't matter in this case because it's auto-populated information. So if you have multiple apps, you will show multiple apps here as well. So what I'm going to do in my app here is I'm going to enable the background task. So I'm going to quickly show you the code that I used to enable the background task here. So this is my other portable class library, which handles all the functionality of enabling a background task. I'm not going to go into the exact details of here because Sean's talk is taken care of it, so I recommend you to go offline and look at that, or go online and look at that presentation so you get the details of it. But basically what it is, I'm checking whether a task is registered for this application. I'm setting everything up, and I'm saying that this is my activatable class ID for my WinRT object that will handle the background task, and that activatable class ID inherits from my background task. So that's it. So it means that my app is now enabled for receiving raw notifications from a background task. The second thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to use this really nifty functionality here. Debugging. Where did that one go? OK, so I'm going to show you instead. OK, so in normal case, I would suspend the application here, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to show you a thing that you have to take in account for. Hello, BG task. So since the application is still running, that means that the delegate is still bound for the raw notification. So when I push this notification, two things will happen. My delegate will receive the notification, and my background task will receive the notification. So that's why I have this code here that's checking whether the background task is registered, and I'm not going to do anything on the. And as you see here, what I do for my background task is that I pop up a toast notification from the background task.
You could be cheating, though. I mean, the app is still in the foreground. So, I mean, really, how do we know that it actually did something?
We can shut down the application.
OK, hit start. Hit start, and let's see what actually happens whenever the app's not in the foreground. Start on the phone.
Yeah.
Sorry. I didn't know I had to drive that closely.
Yeah. So. OK, and then hit F5 here. And then.
Oh, from the simulation engine.
Yeah, sorry.
Much more fun from the simulation engine.
Yeah.
And did it pop on the phone?
There we go.
Oh, it did. What is that up in your?
Yeah, I don't know. What's this thing here? Should I just pull it down?
No. You can't steal all my thunder either. So I'm going to show them that a little later. So you have to let them wait until they see more about that.
Okay. Shift F5 here.
OK, thank you, Jorge. Jorge's going to be back in just a minute to do another demo. But there is a little bit we want to talk about before we get to that part of the demo. We're going to start by talking a little bit about what we did to converge the tiles and the templates that you can use for live tiles between Windows and Windows Phone 8.1. So again, people ask for more flexibility in tiles, and we're absolutely delivering that. It means a lot of brand new stuff for phone, and it is identical for Windows. So you're going to get things like periodic polling, things like scheduled updates, tile notification queue, where you can actually have multiple notifications of different templates cycle through on a tile. You get expiration support if you want a notification to disappear after a certain amount of time because it's no longer valid. And of course, just more templates in general. And tomorrow, Matt is going to have a great session on this. That's why I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about it. I'm just going to leave you hanging a little bit here and say, go see Matt's session tomorrow at 2:30, room 2022, and he'll tell you all about the great new stuff that's coming in live tiles for Windows Phone 8.1 converged with Windows 8. So then the next thing you usually do as a developer with notifications is toasts. That's the thing that pops and gets users engaged, says there's something that needs your attention. And so we do have a converged toast notification world as well. Just like there's a tile template catalog for tiles, there's a toast template catalog for toasts as well, but there's not as many. Those toast templates work on Windows Phone as well. So whenever you send one of those templates down to Windows Phone, we will show it. We do show it a little bit differently because we don't have as much real estate as on Windows, but the notification will work, the toast will show up, and you'll be able to still communicate with your user using the new Windows toasts from Windows 8.1. On top of that, though, not just toasts have gotten better in this release, but we've done Action Center. Everybody said, give us a notification center. What we wanted to give was an Action Center. So the user experience for Action Center, which you probably also saw this morning in Joe's keynote, was kind of how everything just goes into Action Center without you as a developer having to do anything. All toasts go into Action Center. But there's a little more to it to that Joe didn't quite show, so I just want to quickly talk you through it, and then Jorge will show it coming up in just a minute. For example, a user can chase an individual notification that's inside Action Center. So just like when the toast first comes in and the user has the choice to tap on it to launch Deep Link into your app, whenever it's in Notification Center, it can behave exactly the same way. So those notifications in there, you tap it, it deep links into your app exactly like you would expect. A user can also remove notifications for an entire app. Not individual dismiss, but they can dismiss all notifications for an app. The reason we did that is because we found most users wanted Action Center to feel light and airy. They did not want to have to manage Action Center very actively. They wanted to know that they can just quickly get rid of an entire group of notifications, and so now you just remove a group, and anywhere you swipe from, you'll be able to remove that group. So Jorge will also show you that in just a little bit. And then finally, if you just need to get rid of everything in Action Center, there's a button, just hit it, clear all, everything clears out of Action Center. There's a little bit more about the user experience that might not be quite as obvious. It doesn't really come out until you think about it. Notifications that come in and they go into Action Center by default persist for 7 days. So they sit inside the Action Center for up to 7 days before they naturally expire. As a developer, you can choose to set a limit that's shorter than 7 days. For example, you say, there's a new deal, it's only lasting for 24 hours, it expires tomorrow at midnight. And you can actually have that notification disappear on your schedule so that the user is not chasing notifications that are no longer valid. That way, notifications are really for relevant content and they don't get stale. On top of that, we keep up to the 20 most recent notifications per app. So once you get past 20, once the user has more than 20 notifications, we start rolling the oldest ones out and the newest ones in, and we tell them with a little indicator at the bottom that says more, meaning you had more notifications in here, you got so many, we had to roll some out. And then finally, we do something called offline notification grouping as well. I alluded to this a little bit earlier. If you've been offline for a while and you get a bunch of notifications, we don't want to bombard you when you come back online with 100 toasts popping in your face that you can't do anything but swipe away. So what we've done is whenever you come back from offline, we know that you got those notifications offline, and we actually group them on the phone. So what you see as a user is one toast pop that says new notifications for whatever app they're for. But all the individual notifications we kept offline silently go into Action Center so that the user can chase them and even act on them individually if they want to later. There's also a great developer experience for Action Center. One of our key principles when we started this was developers need to be in control of what is inside Action Center at all times. So you do get APIs to do this, but there's a little bit of nuance between Windows Phone 8 apps and Windows Phone 8.1 apps that I want to take a quick second to talk about. If your app is Windows Phone 8, or your app is Windows Phone 8.1 Silverlight app, and you're still using NPN, meaning you haven't switched over to use WNS yet, which a lot of you have existing apps in the store that would be this way. Whenever the app is launched from the tile, or from the app list, or from what we call a grouped header inside of Notifications Action Center, we would just remove everything out of there for you. So we just automatically clear it out, because until you've upgraded your app, you don't really have a way to manage this stuff. So we didn't want users to feel like they had to go in and clean this thing up. We just wanted to take an approach where we clear them all out so that your app doesn't have to think about it. That being said, once you move to a Windows Phone Silverlight 8.1 app or a store app where you're using the new APIs, the new WinRT APIs, you're in full control. You're in charge of what's in the Action Center. And the ways that you control what's in the Action Center are removal. You can remove one-to-many notification using things like tags and groups, and Jorge's going to show that in just a little bit. For example, like I said earlier, a sold-out deal, you want to make sure it gets out of there. You didn't set an expiration, so you can actually just go in and remove it. And you can do this locally, and you can do it from the cloud. Replacement. So you sent a notification, you've either made a mistake, or you actually want to replace it with newer information. you can just replace a notification inside Action Center. So the stock price was X right now. In an hour, it's a different price. Instead of having 2 notifications for the same stock, just replace the existing one that's in there. And then expiration. So you can actually set an expiration time like I mentioned earlier, and notifications will disappear on their own. And there's one more thing we did for Action Center. We affectionately call it Ghost Toast. This is a notification that goes directly into Notification Center. It doesn't pop any UI. As a developer, you can actually set a flag on it that says, put this in Action Center. And there were some great scenarios for why we needed to do this. Imagine you just got a call, for example, a VoIP call, and you saw the call, but you hit ignore. You didn't want to talk to that person right now. And instead of popping a toast right after that that says you have a missed call, that's pretty obvious to the user. So you can silently put something into Action Center using a Ghost Toast. Or you've had a ton of likes on Facebook for some photo you took, and instead of having a notification pop up for every new person that likes your photo, Facebook could actually silently put those into Action Center for you if they wanted to. So, that being said, over to Jorge again so he can actually show you how it all works.
Okay. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to move away from the simulator because we want to run as much as possible live because that's much more exciting. Okay, so let's go in and install the app prematurely here. And let's launch it. And we're getting a URI, and this URI looks more like a web URI, and in this case, we just put it here. Okay. And let's move to Ghost Toast. Okay, so we go ahead here, and so I have a couple of utility functions here. So any single API that you can call locally, you can call from the cloud. So I'm going to move between sending things from the cloud or sending things from internally from the application. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to populate my notification center. You see that?
Okay, you can show them now, I guess.
Okay, I can. Well, I
Everybody already spoiled it in the keynote anyway.
Okay, so you see that I populated my notification center. As Thomas says, you can clear all into Notification Center. So okay, so let's put a debugger, and I'll walk you through how I populated, because you saw that I populated and nothing really happened, or you didn't see anything happen. Let's put a breakpoint there. And we go back to my application here, and I do populate. Okay. So what you see here in the code is that I'm setting up a whole bunch of toasts here according to a list of properties that I have. I just created a very simple data structure where I have the visible text of the toast, the body of the toast, and then the group that this toast is associated with. And since it's my demo, I get to decide what the contents are, and I can wish this much. Anyway, okay, so once I've generated the toast, I'm also telling it that this toast is a suppressed pop-up. That means it's the
Ghost Toast.
Yep. And I'm putting an expiration on one of the toasts, and I'm setting it to 2 minutes. So hopefully when we're done with this demo, you will see that that thing will be gone. Okay, so let's remove the breakpoint here, and let's go. Okay, so we go back to Notification Center then. Okay, so let's see what we have here. This is the one that will be gone soon. Unifies push for chefs. Okay, that's
I'm not a chef. Are you a chef?
Yeah.
You think of yourself as a chef or a developer?
Okay, I think this is a perfect sample to actually go and do a silent update here. So I'm going to the cloud here, and I'm putting the new payload here. I selected Ghost Toast. And to update that one inline, I'm selecting the group here, which is breaking news, and I'm selecting the tag here.
So you're targeting a specific notification by using both group and tag.
Correct. So when I send this push, ooh, botched. Fortunately, I have the
just in case, lucky you had
just
them.
in case I copy pasted in the incorrect place, and then we have to go
You can
back.
see how well my server code handled that exception by just puking and throwing that exception up for everybody to see.
Yeah.
I told you I'm not a server dev. I use the simulator as much as I can.
Thank you for that. Okay, so let's send it. And that's much better. Okay, so within my application, I will get the breakpoint to the toast, and as you see here, when I let it go, it goes. So that is pretty interesting, because I let the notification go. So it didn't update until I let the callback go. So that means that you, as a developer, can now, if your application is running, you can select whether you want to forward the notification or not. Okay, so that's an inline silent notification. I can, of course, do the same thing with one of those updates as well. So I can update the stock price. So let's say that one of the stocks actually went up.
Do we have to?
Yeah, I guess we have to. Otherwise, we'd be too partial about it. And we are selecting the stocks. Actually, we are supposed to send a normal toast and not a ghost toast. So, there we go. And the group is stocks. And the tag is GOG, which I don't know at all what it means. And we send that push notification here. So once again, I'm going to try to time this correctly here. And of course, I have Notification Center up here. So you saw that Google stock went up to and was updated at this point in time. If Notification Center is not up, you will get an actual toast showing up. So this is the way Notification Center works. Okay, so Thomas said that we could remotely delete things based on groups. So in most cases, you will probably delete all the stocks in here. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to delete all the stocks. Toast delete. And I will select.
So now you're targeting a whole group of things. Everybody that has the same group is what you're pointing at right now.
Correct.
So there's like 3 of those in there right now.
Yeah.
Apple, Microsoft. Oh, there's 3. And there they go.
They're gone. And let's see. And I'm supposed to clear all before this notification expires, but I think
well, it will. Don't worry. I
it
promise it goes away.
Yeah.
So.
And then we do a clear all. That's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jorge. After this, if you want to talk more about Action Center and the things you can do as a developer, as a user, Lei is sitting right here in the front row. He will be happy to take questions along with the rest of us afterwards. He was the PM that actually worked on that. So we did want to take a quick minute to talk about Windows Phone Silverlight 8.1. There's a whole session coming up on this, but specific to notifications and what you can do with a Windows Phone Silverlight 8.1 app, we wanted to just quickly tell you what it means. We know that a lot of developers already have Windows Phone Silverlight 8.0 apps in the Windows Phone Store today. So they've done a lot of work, and we want to preserve that investment that developers have done. If you upgrade your project to Windows Phone Silverlight 8.1, you will get access to all the new APIs, all of them. You'll get access to the tile templates, the toast behaviors. You can manage things in Action Center. You can do raw to wake a task. You can do everything that we talked about today that we did in a universal app with your Windows Phone Silverlight 8.1 app. Because we knew that you would probably want to bridge to where you can use the new APIs, but you're not quite ready to rewrite your XAML yet. So that's what Windows Phone Silverlight 8.1 provides you. There are some caveats to doing this that we wanted to call out, and it's important to think about these. The easiest way to describe this, if you've seen a very popular movie, is don't cross the streams. Okay? If you're going to use Windows Phone Silverlight 8.1 and you're not going to update, then stick with all the .NET and NPN APIs. If you are going to update to WNS and WinRT, only use WNS and WinRT APIs. That means don't use the .NET push notification API along with the WinRT tile update API. It might kind of sort of work, but in reality, to make this all work together for you, we had to make some assumptions at the platform level, and weird things might happen. So you can do this. I'm not worried. I think everybody will be able to take care of it, but it's something you need to test, and we'll have good guidance about what it means to not cross the streams whenever we put this up on MSDN. So to learn more about Windows Phone Silverlight 8.1, Sam Jarawan is a great session. You should really go see it. It's tomorrow at 5:30, and it's in room 2018. It'll be a great topic that covers a lot more about what it means to be a Windows Phone Silverlight 8.1 app. So this is what you asked for, and we want to talk about what we delivered. You said give us one platform. We gave you a converged platform. It's fully converged. No excuses this time. You said improve NPN, and honestly, we have. You may not know it, but we've been deploying new data centers for NPN all across the world, fixing bugs, reducing latency. We have not in any way given up on NPN, because you may have customers who don't update their phones, and we still want that to work well. We've improved NPN, and we will keep improving NPN. But we also say that NPN on WNS, which is really just WNS on a Windows Phone 8.1 device, is uber reliable, fast, efficient. It is fantastic. So when your app runs on a Windows Phone 8.1 device without you doing anything, you'll get major, major improvements. You said flexibility. We're delivering more tiles, more toasts, letting you have raw to wake up a task so that you can do code execution based on a push trigger. You said give us Notification Center. We gave you Action Center. And you said make great tools so that I can get into developing for notifications easier. And the notification simulation engine is an awesome way to do that without you having to actually know server code. So, with that being said, feedback is super important to us. Please take the time to fill out an eval. My boss is doing everything he can to sabotage Jorge and I's session. So please fill out an eval and rate us however you feel, honestly. But we do have gifts to give away in just a minute. I meant to tell you that, so no pressure. And thank you very, very much. Really appreciate you taking the time and look forward to you letting us know all the great stuff that you do on the new notifications platform. So, questions at the mics. First person to the mic gets a speaker, except for Justin Angel. Oh, hi, Justin. How are you?
Hello.
Have you got one yet?
I'm good.
Okay. I wasn't going to throw it at you.
So I was gonna, I'd hide behind someone else. I was gonna ask you if you're working with any other third-party push notification providers like Urban Airship, Push.io, just to make sure their client side and service sides are ready for this change. Because right now, a lot of people are using the client SDKs from these folks and not really asking for channel URIs themselves, have these SDKs that do it for them.
Right.
Are you doing anything about that?
We do. We do have relationships with those, with some of the companies that you mentioned. We are going to make sure that they have all the information they need to adopt this for Windows Phone 8.1. On top of that, we've also got our solution. You've heard of Azure Mobile Services. So they're making sure that their SDK is completely up to date and ready to go with this new capability for WNS as well. So for those developers who like to have a bridge, they don't want to roll their own notification service, which I totally get as a terrible developer, then yes, absolutely. We want to make sure that you have those solutions in place. Thank you. That's a good question.
Awesome, thanks.
Anybody else? Yep.
Hi, I actually work with Push.io, so
Yes! Go Push.io!
our question, the big problem we have is right now sending particular to WNS is we have to send one notification at a time. Is there any progress on being able to bulk send, if you will?
So we call that multicast sometimes, but
Yeah.
yeah, so right now with WNS, we don't have the capability to do multicast. We absolutely hear you. We
Okay.
absolutely think about that in our future roadmap. It's not something that I can actively say that we're developing right now, but I mean, I promise we have a team of people who are looking at it. It's a very common request. It's common, again, like you said, you're already using it on Windows and you'd like this. Now that phone is there, it would make things even better. So we totally understand the ask. I can't announce anything right now.
Cool, thanks.
Get your speaker.
Oh, absolutely.
There you go. I don't want to throw it at you.
Okay, other questions? No?
Yeah, he wants a speaker.
Yeah. Fair enough.
It might be a crazy question. So the thing is, in WP 8.1, you guys are supporting MDM client to be invoked through WNS.
Right.
So most probably, I have to implement WNS. But the thing is, the existing customers, which is in W8.0, will be in MPNS. So if I send a WNS from the server, will it by any chance works on existing customers?
It will not. You will have to migrate the application if you want to use WNS.
No, but the customers are still in 8.0.
I understand, right. And so if they haven't upgraded their phone to Windows Phone 8.1 yet, you still need to use MPN.
So there will be 2 channels I have to use.
Yes, depending on what the customer's installed, that's right. So if you have some people still on Windows Phone 8 and some people that are moving to Windows Phone 8.1, and if you haven't updated the app, though, to WNS in any way, you don't have to do anything. But if you decide to maintain a Phone 8.0 version and an 8.1 version using WNS, then you will potentially have 2 different URIs to do different services.
Basically, I will have one MDM agent and one will be the app. App I can manage, but the agent, there is no other options, right? I can only send through WNS.
And can I jump in?
Sure, please.
So there are some special things that you have to pay attention to when you update your application to a Windows Phone Silverlight 8.1, because it's still a Silverlight application. So if you send Toast, for example, and want a deep link, it's still a page-centric approach to it. So the payload that you send to deep link needs to be specially formatted according to our old Silverlight model as well.
Yeah, that's the part. You
Yeah.
need to have more information
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
And
URLs.
we'll have
Yeah.
some pretty good documentation on this.
Yeah.
I'd love to just hang out. We'll hook up, and I'll hook you up with some of the folks that are enterprise experts. And Saral on my team is also starting to ramp up on some of the enterprise scenarios for the future. We'd love to learn more about your pain
That
points.
will be great.
Great, thank you.
Get your speaker now.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Do you work with Windows 7 and Vista?
Is WNS supported on Windows 7?
Yes.
WNS is not supported on Windows 7 and Vista today. It's Windows Phone 8.1 and Windows 8 and Windows 8.1.
Okay.
But you still get a speaker.
I hope that's good.
I
Good
don't know. He might have been here first.
think so.
Okay.
See, they're counting the speakers.
It's a simple one. So with regard to the Action Center, is it just strictly plain text based, or can I customize the way certain notifications look like? I can give one more importance than another, make it stand out, say this is a high important notification, or
Right.
you know,
So is there any semblance of priority, or is there any way to differentiate the individual notifications?
Right.
They're limited to basically 2 lines of text, exactly like a toast, and there's nothing about setting priority as it stands today. You can replace a notification, which will move it to the top of the list because it'll be more frequent, but it's not strictly saying this is a higher priority than the rest. But it's good feedback, and I'd love to know more about your scenarios. If you don't have to tell everybody, but talk to me.
And another thing, if you are customizing, like if you're developing for Windows today and you're customizing your toast with images, you can send the same payload to the phone. We're just not going to display it as Thomas presented it in the...
can you include an image in the
Well, you can include an
Action
image,
Center?
but we will not show it on the phone because of the real estate.
We just don't have real estate. But
Yeah.
we're thinking about ways to make sure that we do that going forward. But right now, we don't have the real estate to show exactly the same toast structure as Windows has.
But you still can have the same code in the...
Yep, you can still send it. We'll support it.
Yep.
Right.
Can you
we will
repeat it?
not. Yep.
So you mentioned deep linking into a specific area of an app from a notification. Do you know what any plans are for deep linking for live tiles, both for phone and for Windows 8? Because the problem I have now is that I don't really know when somebody opens an app whether they clicked on tile because there was a live tile showing, or because they just felt like it, or they searched for the app or something.
Right. And I'd love for you to talk to Matt. Matt Heidinger is here in the audience. So if you don't mind, I'll just defer that question to Matt and
Sure.
his session, and you guys can hook up and talk more about that.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Then he gets a speaker
Oh,
from Matt.
you want a speaker?
Sure.
I don't know, he has a math
We have
question,
we have
maybe?
one left, and
One left?
I guess it's going to go to you.
Yeah.
Yes, in Windows Phone 8.1, the MDM stack responds to push to check in. Does Windows 8.1 MSMDM stack do the same thing?
So is the question, does the MDM stack in Windows Phone 8.1 have anything to do with WNS? And does it listen to check in, to receive like changes in policy, et cetera?
Yeah, from what I understand, it does on Windows Phone 8.1.
Right.
My question is, will Windows 8.1 MDM also respond to push
I honestly
notification?
don't know the right answer to that question.
Okay.
I would love to find out for you, though. So if you don't mind hanging out, or actually, just send me mail, tfennel@microsoft.com,
Okay.
or thomas.fennel@microsoft.com. Just send me mail. I'll find out the answer for you.
Okay.
I'd rather not tell you. I'd rather not know than tell you. the wrong thing.
Right. Thanks.
But you get a speaker anyway, so.
Yep. Fair enough. So
It's the last one.
we're running really close to our time. We've got a minute left. So is there
I can give you
anybody
my
else that wants to
business
ask a
card,
question
and you can
before we
ping
have to
me.
wrap
I'll
up?
forward it to him. Hold on.
Okay. You guys have been great. I really appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.